When we talk about the rules every truly wise and grounded woman lives by, the very first one begins with the heart, strengthening your connection with Allah in every moment of your life. Because before success, before relationships, before achievements, before the world tells you who you should be, there is a deeper truth inside you. Your worth, your direction, your confidence, all flow from the one who created you. And when a woman anchors her life in remembrance of him, something powerful happens. Her thoughts become clearer, her emotions become steadier, and her choices come from a place of certainty instead of confusion or pressure from people around her. It is in those quiet moments of prayer, in those early breaths of the morning, in the verses of the Quran that speak directly to your soul, where a woman finds real strength, not loud strength, not ego-driven strength, but a strength rooted in humility, trust, and deep inner peace. A smart woman understands that faith isn't only about rituals, it is about alignment. It is about asking yourself, before every decision, is this pleasing to Allah? Is this bringing me closer to Him or pulling me away? And when you live like that, your priorities change. The noise of the world loses its grip on your heart. You stop chasing validation from people, because your heart feels complete when it is connected to the one who already knows you, understands you, and cares for you more than anyone else ever could. You start realizing that every hardship, every delay, every unanswered question is not a punishment, but a lesson, a step in your journey, something placed in your path so you can grow stronger, wiser, more grateful. And as your connection with Allah deepens, your identity becomes unshakable. You don't compare your life to others, you don't break under pressure, you don't lose yourself in trends or expectations. You begin to walk with quiet confidence, because your heart is not attached to this world. It is attached to something eternal. You find courage in dua, clarity in patience, and direction in surrender. You learn to say, I may not understand everything right now, but my Lord sees what I cannot see, and I trust His plan for me. That trust becomes your shield. It protects your peace, your dignity, your emotional well-being. It reminds you that you don't need to rush, you don't need to prove anything to anyone, because what is written for you will never miss you, and what misses you was never meant for you. A truly smart woman makes time for this connection, even on the busiest days. She pauses to reflect, to realign, to soften her heart when life hardens it. She feeds her soul the way others feed their ambitions, and when challenges come, and they will, she stands rooted. She does not fall apart, because her heart is anchored in something deeper than circumstance. She knows that real elevation begins from within, and that true success is not about how high you rise in the eyes of people, but how close you come to the one who gave you life, purpose, and guidance. And that is where true intelligence begins. When we speak about protecting your character and modesty, we're really speaking about guarding the most precious part of who you are, your inner dignity, your moral compass, your sense of self that does not bend for trends, opinions, or fleeting admiration. A truly smart woman understands that real beauty begins from within, and it shows not only in how she dresses or speaks, but in the way she carries herself when no one is watching. She knows that modesty is not a limitation, it is liberation. It frees her from the need to constantly impress, to compete, to prove her worth to people who may never truly value her. Instead, she lives with quiet strength, choosing grace over attention, depth over glamour, sincerity over performance. Protecting your character means being intentional about the words you speak, the conversations you join, and the spaces you allow your heart to enter. It means asking yourself, does this reflect who I want to be? Does this align with my values? Because every word leaves an imprint, every action shapes your identity, and every moment of compromise slowly rewrites the story of your life. A wise woman knows that character isn't built in grand moments. It is built in daily choices, in the patience she practices, in the kindness she shows, in the self-control she exercises when her emotions want to take over. She understands that true strength is not in reacting quickly, but in responding wisely. And modesty extends beyond appearance. It is in the tone of your voice, in the purity of your intentions, in the humility of your heart. It is choosing not to expose every thought, not to reveal every emotion, not to place your soul on display for the world's judgment. It is knowing that some parts of you are sacred, your dreams, your struggles, your vulnerabilities, and they deserve protection, not exposure. A smart woman does not seek validation in the eyes of strangers. She seeks contentment in the stability of her own conscience. She does not measure herself by likes, attention, or comparison, because she knows that comparison is the enemy of peace and the thief of gratitude. Guarding your character also means guarding the company. Why you keep. She is mindful of who influences her speech, her habits, her behavior, because she understands that the people around her are mirrors. They either reflect her best self or distort her values. So she chooses relationships that honor her principles, friendships that encourage virtue, environments that nurture her dignity rather than challenge it. She distances herself from negativity, gossip, arrogance, and superficiality, not out of pride but out of respect for her own soul. And when life tests her, when others misunderstand her choices, when the world glamorizes everything she chooses to avoid, she remains firm, not stubborn, but grounded. She remembers that modesty is not about hiding, it is about shining with a different kind of light, a light that is gentle, sincere, and enduring. She realizes that the woman who knows her worth does not have to shout it, does not have to display it, does not have to trade her values for acceptance. Her silence carries wisdom, her restraint carries confidence, her presence carries respect. Because in the end, protecting your character and modesty is not about being perfect. It is about honoring who you are becoming, and who you refuse to stop being, no matter how loud the world becomes. Choosing knowledge over ignorance is about deciding every single day that you will not live on autopilot, that you will not move through life reacting, assuming, or repeating patterns without understanding their impact on your heart, your choices, and your future. A truly smart woman knows that growth is intentional. It does not happen by accident. She seeks knowledge because she wants clarity, direction, and wisdom. She wants to understand herself, her purpose, her emotions, and the world around her through a lens grounded in truth rather than illusion. She realizes that ignorance is not simply the absence of information. It is the absence of awareness, reflection, and willingness to improve. When a woman chooses knowledge, she isn't just studying books or collecting facts. She is nurturing her mind and refining her character. She learns from her experiences instead of repeating the same mistakes. She reflects after every challenge and asks, "What is this teaching me? How can I grow from this?" She understands that knowledge without humility becomes arrogance, but knowledge with sincerity becomes transformation. And so she learns not only to know, but to apply what she learns, in her speech, her decisions, her relationships, and her inner life. She seeks knowledge that strengthens her faith, sharpens her thinking, and deepens her emotional maturity. She learns how to control her impulses rather than being controlled by them. She learns how to listen before responding, how to pause before reacting, how to understand before judging. And with every lesson she becomes calmer, wiser, more centered. She realizes that the more she learns, the more aware she becomes of how much she still has to grow. And that awareness itself becomes a source of humility, not insecurity. A smart woman does not allow distractions to consume her mind. She does not feed her thoughts with negativity, gossip, or empty content that wastes her time and weakens her focus. She understands that whatever enters the mind eventually shapes the heart, and whatever shapes the heart eventually shapes the life. So she becomes intentional about what she reads, what she listens to, and who she allows to influence her thinking. She surrounds herself with conversations that uplift, with ideas that challenge her to rise higher, with guidance that directs her toward meaning rather than noise. And part of choosing knowledge is being willing to unlearn, to let go of harmful beliefs, limiting thoughts, and emotional habits that no longer serve her growth. She acknowledges when she has been wrong, when she needs to change, when she needs to start again. That honesty with herself becomes a powerful form of intelligence. It frees her from ego and opens the door to real development. She does not fear correction because she knows correction is not an attack. It is a step toward becoming better. She also recognizes that knowledge brings responsibility. When she learns truth, she strives to live by it. When she understands wisdom, she strives to embody it. She does not simply speak about values, she practices them even when it is difficult, even when no one is watching. Her integrity grows stronger because her understanding grows deeper, and as she continues learning, she becomes a source of calm guidance to others, not by preaching, but by example, by presence, by quiet strength. In this journey, she realizes that the greatest investment she can ever make is not in possessions, status, or appearance, but in her mind and her soul, because knowledge shapes identity, strengthens faith, and lights the path ahead when everything else feels uncertain. Guarding your time and relationships is about understanding that your life is shaped not only by what you do, but by who you allow into your space and how you choose to spend the moments you can never get back. A truly smart woman realizes that time is one of the greatest trusts she has been given, and every hour she wastes on distractions, negativity, or meaningless pursuits is an hour taken away from her growth, her peace, and her purpose. So she becomes intentional about her habits, intentional about her priorities, intentional about the kind of energy she allows to live in her heart. She knows that when her time is honored, her life becomes aligned, and when her relationships are chosen wisely, her path becomes clearer and lighter. She learns to say no, not out of arrogance, but out of wisdom. She says no to conversations that drain her spirit, to environments that weaken her values, to people who pull her away from who she is striving to become. She understands that not every voice deserves access to her emotion. Not every opinion deserves space in her mind, and not every relationship deserves a seat in her life. She values herself enough to step away from what harms her peace, even if it is familiar, even if it is difficult, even if walking away means standing alone for a while, because she knows that loneliness with dignity is better than companionship that corrodes the heart. And guarding relationships does not mean shutting the world out, it means choosing connection with purpose. She surrounds herself with people who remind her of her values, who inspire her to rise, who speak truth with kindness and support her growth with sincerity. She appreciates relationships that are built on respect, trust, and compassion, relationships where hearts uplift one another instead of competing, where conversations nurture wisdom instead of feeding insecurity, where presence brings calm instead of anxiety. She understands that the right people help her become her best self, while the wrong people slowly dim her light without her even noticing. She also becomes mindful of her own role in relationships. She strives to be someone who adds goodness, who listens with empathy, who speaks with integrity. She guards her words because she knows they carry weight. She guards her emotions because she knows they influence others. She guards her commitments because she knows trust is not something to be taken lightly. And when conflicts or misunderstandings arise, she does not react with pride or anger. Instead, she responds with wisdom, patience, and compassion, because she values harmony over ego and truth over winning. Guarding time also means recognizing when life demands focus. She gives her attention to what truly matters: her growth, her responsibilities, her spiritual well-being, her purpose. She avoids living in constant distraction, constantly scrolling, constantly comparing, constantly escaping the present moment. She learns to be still, to reflect, to breathe, to reconnect with what is meaningful. She knows that every season of life requires discipline. The discipline to prioritize what builds her and release what slowly breaks her from within. And when she looks at her journey, she realizes that many of her greatest transformations came from the moments she chose to protect her peace, to distance herself from chaos, to honor her time, and to walk away from relationships that no longer aligned with her values. It wasn't always easy, but it was necessary, because a woman who guards her time and relationships is a woman who guards her heart, her direction, and her future, and through that protection, she preserves her strength, her dignity, and her beautiful sense of purpose. Practicing patience, gratitude, and emotional discipline is one of the greatest signs of inner strength, because it means you are no longer allowing every situation, every word, every disappointment to control how you feel or who you become. A truly smart woman understands that life will not always move according to her expectations. There will be delays, there will be challenges, there will be moments that test her deeply. But instead of collapsing under pressure or reacting impulsively, she chooses to breathe, to pause, to hold herself with grace, and to trust that every experience carries wisdom, even when it arrives wrapped in difficulty. Patience is not weakness. It is the quiet confidence that whatever is meant for you will come at the right time, in the right way, by the will of the one who knows what you cannot see. When a woman practices patience, she does not rush decisions out of fear, she does not force outcomes out of insecurity, and she does not let frustration dictate her behavior. She learns to wait with dignity, to work with consistency, and to surrender her worries instead of drowning in them. She understands that patience is not just about waiting, it is about how you carry yourself while you wait, how you protect your heart from bitterness, and how you choose faith over anxiety even when the road ahead feels uncertain. Gratitude becomes her anchor. She trains her heart to notice blessings that others overlook: health, safety, faith, family, small moments of joy, moments of calm, the ability to breathe, to feel, to hope. She realizes that a grateful heart does not deny pain, but it refuses to allow pain to erase the good that still exists. Gratitude shifts her perspective. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" she begins to ask, "What is this teaching me? How is this guiding me to grow?" And through that shift, she finds peace even in discomfort, strength even in vulnerability, and light even in seasons that feel heavy. Gratitude softens her character, prevents arrogance, and shapes her into someone who carries humility and grace wherever she goes. Emotional discipline ties everything together. It means she does not allow anger to define her voice, sadness to weaken her identity, or fear to paralyze her decisions. She acknowledges her emotions, she feels them fully, honestly, and gently, but she does not let them lead her to words or actions she will regret. She learns to pause before speaking, to reflect before reacting, and to respond from wisdom instead of impulse. She understands that maturity is not about suppressing emotions, it is about managing them with awareness, compassion, and self-control. And emotional discipline also means choosing peace even when chaos surrounds her. She does not involve herself in unnecessary arguments. She does not entertain negativity. She does not allow herself to be pulled into emotional battles that drain her spirit. She protects her inner world because she knows that when the heart is calm, the mind becomes clear, and the soul finds direction. She stops fighting every situation and starts trusting the journey, trusting that every trial refines her, every challenge strengthens her, and every moment of restraint elevates her character. With patience, she learns endurance. With gratitude, she learns contentment. With emotional discipline, she learns balance. Together, they shape a woman who does not merely survive life, but rises through it with dignity, wisdom, and unwavering faith. And that is where her true strength shines the brightest. Living with purpose, service, and responsibility means understanding that your life is not random, and your presence in this world is not accidental. A truly smart woman knows that every talent she has, every opportunity she is given, every role she carries, whether as a daughter, a mother, a friend, a professional, a student, or a servant to her community, is part of a greater mission. She does not move through life aimlessly or reactively. She wakes up each day asking herself, "How can I add meaning today? How can I leave something better than I found it?" And in that intention, she discovers a deeper sense of fulfillment that cannot be found in comfort, distraction, or self-centered desires. Purpose gives direction to her steps. It prevents her from wasting her energy on things that do not nourish her soul or contribute to her growth. She becomes mindful about where she invests her time, her effort, and her emotions. She does not simply chase success as the world defines it. She chases significance, a life that benefits others, a path that aligns with values, a journey that reflects integrity and devotion. She understands that true honor is not in being seen, but in being sincere, not in being praised, but in being purposeful. Service becomes one of the ways she lives out that purpose. She recognizes that strength is not measured by how much she gains, but by how much good she is able to give, even in small, quiet, unseen acts. She serves her family with kindness. She supports those around her with compassion. She offers help where she can. She uplifts others through words, presence, and care. She does not serve for recognition or reward. She serves because her heart finds meaning in contribution, because she understands that every act of goodness is an investment in her character and her legacy. And responsibility grounds her actions. She does not run from her duties. nor does she leave her commitments half done. She understands that maturity is reflected in accountability, in honoring promises, in fulfilling obligations, in standing firm when others rely on her. She takes responsibility for her choices, her emotions, her behavior, and her effect on the lives around her. When she makes mistakes, she owns them with humility, learns from them with courage, and rises from them with renewed clarity. She does not blame life, people, or circumstances for everything. Instead, she asks, "What can I do better? What is my role in this? How can I improve?" A woman who lives with purpose does not isolate herself in self-growth. She understands that growth and service walk hand in hand. She nurtures herself so she can nurture others. She strengthens her heart so she can be a source of strength for those who are struggling. She balances compassion for others with responsibility toward herself, setting boundaries where needed, resting when necessary, but never losing sight of the mission to live meaningfully. And sometimes, living with purpose requires courage to walk a different path, to choose depth over distraction, sincerity over superficiality, contribution over applause. She may not always be understood, but she remains grounded, because she knows that the value of a life is not measured by how loudly it shines, but by how deeply it touches hearts and how it reflects devotion, integrity, and compassion. In the end, she understands that purpose is not something she waits to discover someday. It is something she lives every day, through her choices, her values, her service, and her unwavering sense of responsibility. And that is what makes her journey meaningful, elevated, and beautifully complete.